This meeting is being recorded.
All right, welcome everybody to Resilient Voices and Beyond. I'm so excited for the guest that I have today. This is going to be a very interesting and unique experience. I wanted to be able to showcase some alumni, but also most of you guys know I'm from Michigan. So it's important for me not to just showcase alumni, but showcase alumni from my own home state so they can kind of depict their stories and their experience, from what has happened in the state of Michigan. So without further ado, I ain't gonna talk too much. I'm gonna have Miyah introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Miyah Louis. I'm 23 and I'm from Detroit, Michigan, a former foster care kid.
Okay. Thank you. Man, it's so great to have you today. Like, I appreciate you doing this for me, and uh, I'm excited to just have this conversation and to hear your story. So, with that being said, if you could take us through your story, when you entered into foster care, what was the experience and so forth.
So I entered foster care at the age of 17 or 16, going on 17, and it was my junior year. At the time, I was having family issues. Like the dynamic in the household was like very trash. Like it was horrible. It was me and my identical twin sister. We were placed into the foster care system in Oakland County. So when you come into foster care for abuse and neglect, you go to Mandys Place at the 1200 building. You know about that. And that was all new to me. Like prior to having family issues, I just thought that was the norm. Like I thought that was just a thing. Like, when you go to different psychiatrists or talk to different counselors, it's like, oh, you're oppositional, defiant, or whatever they be talking about. So I just thought it was just I'm deemed as a bad kid. But CPS was called multiple times, coming up like from teenage to the time that I was actually taken out the home. And so it was me and my twin sister. CPS came and picked us up, but we ran from them though. Like because I didn't understand, like nobody gave us a heads up on what was about to unfold or whatever. So yeah, we went to Mandy's place, but we were too old to be anywhere. I think we was at Mandy's place because it was getting investigated. Like so we was there for like 3 or 4 months for the
Okay.
first round. Hmm.
Okay, for you guys that don't know about Mandy's Place, like, let me tell you. So, in Oakland County, in Michigan, they have like this big juvenile facility. They have like a guys' juvenile facility, and they have a girls like not detached on the same grounds, but
Hmm.
on like the opposite side of it. And then they have
Hmm.
like big old gates around there, and then several like houses and different kind of programs, plus their school in that. And then they have one house that's strictly for, like, I would say, holding or temporary shelter or placement
Hmm.
for foster youth. So you don't know, but about my story, like, I was in a guardianship with my sister, and things got a little bit rough and just didn't work out. So I told the courts I didn't want to go back home, which eventually saved my life. Now,
Hmm.
I've been to Oakland County Children's Village several times on the juvenile side. So then they went to take me over there. I'm like, look, I ain't do nothing wrong. I'm asking for help this time. And they took
Yeah.
me to the Mandys Place. I was like, not they put me in here with these criminals. You know? Because that was my ideology of it. I was like, I've been to Oakland County Children's Village for juvenile so many different times and
Hmm.
so forth. And then they put me there. I was there for about, several months getting the runarounds, like, oh,
Hmm.
well, we're gonna put you in placement, or we're gonna put you in independent living, or hey, we
Yeah.
gonna sit you with a family member. Okay, we don't know what we doing, and repeat. Like, it was in loop.
And you
So
just jogged my memory, because that was the first place that I went. So I had met, and I forgot. I can we name drop? No, I'm not even gonna name drop. Anyways, the dude, Because actually, I have a younger brother, and he's still in adult foster care. He about to be 23, and he's mentally ill. So at the time, my younger brother was staying with my dad, and my dad was getting sick around this time, and he got taken into care. I didn't know that. So he already had went through Mandys Place before we got there, and his caseworker ended up being our caseworker. And he was telling me and my twin sister, he was like, yeah, you're going to go to SIL, semi-independent living. You're going to get stipends and checks and stuff, and everything going to be peachy keen, because we are at the older end of the spectrum where we about to we wanted to get emancipated. Like, we just wanted to just get out of that situation, but they strung that along for so long. And then we end up going, have you heard about, it's at Oxford?
Crossroads?
Yes. Nah, they lied. Cause you know about, when they sent us there, that was the worst. Like, the living conditions, and that's when I really was kind of like being vocal about the situation, because now I'm months in and I didn't know. So I said, you took me out of, even though my living situation was not bad at the time, like my mom kept cars, she kept us well dressed and everything. It was just the abuse standpoint from that, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, you take kids out of a home because you deem that to be unsafe, to put me where they got well water and we live in like Mary Poppins. Like, what do you mean? I don't get it.
Wow. I actually, speaking of which, when I got out of the juvenile side, I had to do intensive probation, and so forth. And when I had to do intensive probation, like, I did what I had to do and stuff like that. It was rough trying to get used to it, but at that time in my story, my mom, who had 5 strokes consecutively when I was 11, which was the same age I actually went into the foster care system, had got back, got back home. And so me and my sister at that time was taking care of my mom. When my sister would go to work, I'll be coming home from school. When I was coming home from school, I would just have to take care of my mom. I've done everything with bathing, helping my mom go to the store, all these different things and so forth, just to support her. And it was kind of weird because, like, my mom tried to do all that she could, but, when I think back to some of the different things, my mom had abusive ways and so forth. And after, my mom had a divorce, it really didn't work out. So it was kind of hard because I'm like, this is somebody that kind of, tried their best to, care for me, but also was, abusive to me,
Yeah.
So how do I take care of somebody like that? But as a kid, I missed out on a lot of different things because I also was on probation, and then nonetheless, I had to take care of my mom, so it kind of switched off like that. And towards the end of my probation, they told me I had to go do like community service. So like I had to do like 2 or so days or on a weekend, like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday at Crossroads. And I went to Crossroads. So we sat down, we had to write a letter or something. I don't remember what the letter was. We sat in this room, like they gave us food. Food was trash. Like I like that food was straight out of the county. That's what that's what
Not even that.
and then they had us do like kind of manual labor. And like I don't know if it was kind of like a scare straight kind of thing, but I was like, I'm at the end of my probation. Like I don't even like I'm doing this so I can finish off. Like like I'm not out here tripping on probation. But like they didn't understand. So like at that point in my life, I love like manual labor, anything to work out, because working out had became a coping skill for me. So they gave me this whole hand like scythe kind of thing to cut the grass. And I'm just having a jolly good old time over here singing hymns and Negro spirituals doing it. And they like, you're not supposed to be having fun. And I'm like, well, y'all shouldn't have brought me out here.
Right.
But that was my experience of, Crossroads. I don't know now if they've gotten better or anything like that, because I know there's been a lot of different state protocols that has came down for like CCIs. And those who don't know what CCIs are, child care institutes, which basically kind of explains like placements, residentials, and so forth. So there's been a lot of things that came down from the federal government to the state level to kind of mandate better care and so forth. So I haven't been there for years, I've been out of the system for years. So I don't know if they, have closed down or are still open, or if they've adapted and made things better. But back then, I just say it was a lot of work, and I've been in several different places in residential facilities, and yeah, between Mandys Place and then that experience, it was something. I kind of want to ask, so like, did you age out? Like, what happened towards, what decision did they make as far as you being at Mandys Place?
So it went like this. I was in Mandys Place initially when I got taken out of care. Then I went to Crossroads for a little 2 seconds because I got de-escalated out of there. And the term de-escalate mean, they gave you the boot, like you going somewhere worse than that. And I feel like being in foster care, that shouldn't have been served as a form of punishment when I was the one that was being neglected. But anyways, so I ended up going to DBI after that. And I spent the rest of my time in the Detroit Behavioral Institute, and that was downtown. And that's when, so I mentioned about my brother. When I got there, he was there. So I didn't even know. So it was me, my twin sister, and my younger brother. And so I ended up, me and my sister, we had a court date before our 18th birthday. And my mom chose to let her come home, and I had to stay in the facility. And at 18, I ended up going into a group home. It was an independent living. It was a group home with other girls, and I was the oldest girl in there. So then I ended up getting kicked out of there. So I got kicked out of there a little because I was still in high school. I got kicked out of there because they said I was a liability to the home, but I didn't care. So after that, I bossed my life up, and I've been living on my own ever since. So.
I love it. I love it. I mean, pretty much you're a fighter, you've been resilient. I kind of want to go back because those that don't know what DBI is, and if you can paint a picture for us, and the listeners, what that is.
So basically DBI, honestly, it wasn't that bad. DBI is a semi-open facility. So the way they told me, it's 2 buildings. So DBI was the open facility where you could leave and go on outings and do little trips. That was like, it was a structured place. It wasn't in a house setting. It was literally like a facility. So you had the girls side, the boys side, and you had scheduled times to eat. They had school on the grounds. That's the other thing. They had school inside the building. But my judge said, no, Miyah, you're finishing out your senior year at the school you came from. So everybody was mad that I got to go to my same public school every day. And yeah, so it's just that. But then up the street, they had the straight lockdown prison style up the street. And you can't go nowhere.
That's the DBI I know.
You went to that one? I was in the.
That's the one I know. Like, I don't know the open.
No, I was in Winnie Hood Junior. I was chilling. It was nice. And I really liked that because it was structured. The staff, well, it's a lot that came out about the staff that was real messed up. How they would fraternize with the kids, they were doing stuff. But other than that, like that, they felt like that was de-escalation for me. But that was really, it was a lot of black people, a lot of black staff, and it was in the city. So they really was like tending to the black kids. Like, and I really liked that because Crossroads was in the sticks and they didn't care about, But DBI it was all right. Like they took you outside, they made sure that you was in the community doing stuff. They just made it good. But when I was in DBI, my dad passed away. So when I went into foster care, my this whole situation was going on with my family or whatever. Then we ended up getting de-escalated to there. And then I was there for like 4 or 5 months, and then my dad passed away. So that was like, but they were super supportive in there when he died. When the funeral came about and everything, they made sure that we was getting the resources and grief. And I do appreciate them for that, because if it wasn't for them with their structure and everything, I don't think I'd be sitting here talking to you like how we talking about that. But they was nice.
Okay. Man, you've had an experience, you're very resilient and you persevered. So kind of, flashing forward, you've been through several different facilities and so forth. So like at the beginning, like fostering was just taken out the table for you being in the foster home. That
Oh,
wasn't even an
yeah.
option.
Mm-mm. It wasn't. And it's like, because me and my sister, we weren't bad kids. Like, and I remember when I met you, what conference was that when we were talking to the
Teen conference, Michigan Teen
yeah.
Conference.
Mm-hmm. I think it was an age thing. Like, they tried to call aunties and uncles to see if they could house me and my sister, because my mom at that point, she gave up her rights. Like, it wasn't nothing. It was just the state of Michigan was our parents. She gave up her rights. And nobody could take us in, or wanted to take us in. And my sister at that time already dropped out of high school, so school wasn't an issue for her. I wanted to be somewhere because I wanted to finish my education, period. That was the only thing. I was at the end. So yeah, fostering was out of the option. Even like they said, they tried to do independent living, but that was not what they said it was. And it was just real hard to try to get us put in places. And I don't know why, still to this day.
Okay. Man, I just, speaking to, like the listeners and so forth, like, this is like the dilemma that is still happening today. Like age, like I feel like once you enter the foster system, age should not be something that deems you put into a residential, or put into other places. Because the thing is about that, and this may be my opinion, so listeners beware, or whatever. But it shouldn't be where, okay, I don't have no place for this 60-year-old or 17-year-old or even this 18-year-old, because I believe you can stay into independent living until 19 or so forth.
Oh yeah.
It shouldn't be where those ages have to be put in placement, but then when they're put in placement, or places or holding facilities where there is, people that had came in already in there with behavior issues, when they start displaying behavior issues because they tired of being in there, they are disciplined by putting them into more tougher facilities, instead of trying to work with them and get to the root. Like nobody wants to be in a facility. Like these facilities, in my day. Like I'm just saying in my day, because I will hope some of these things have changed. Are like walled facilities with bare minimum windows. There's no kind of home or nurturing anything in those environments. I remember being in places like Mandys Place and residentials, and they knew I had certain allergies to food and stuff like that. And they didn't cater to them. Like numerous times they would put like stuff that they knew I was allergic to, and I had staff members that would sit there and look at me like, oh, he ain't really allergic, and so forth. And there was times, I'm a kid, so there was times I was like, let me go ahead and eat this and go into NFL shop so y'all can get in trouble, like because it really made me mad. Like, and luckily I wasn't, suicidal or depressed and stuff like that, because I can see someone that is experiencing depression or being suicidal, and tired of being in one of those places and having allergies like I did, and doing that,
Yeah, deliberately.
Yeah, so I just, like, in the state of Michigan, I really think that we need to figure out a better solution. And I understand that there's not a lot of foster homes for teenagers, but also on top of that, for the foster homes that are out there, we need to do a better job in educating the parents or the people who want to be foster parents, to let them know that, these stigmas, these, things that you see when it comes to fostering, it isn't just specific towards teenagers. Every child has trauma, that has went to the foster system in some way or form. But with love and care in a nice environment, and not saying that they still ain't gonna snip at you or or whatever, that can be changed, and I just feel like, us as a state, we have, people who foster and they be like, well, no, I don't mess with teens and stuff like that. I'm like, we got to get away from that. We have to break that stigma and change the label around that, because the alternative is residential and facilities, and that alternative after that, most people who end up in there, and I believe it was like 80% of people who've been in residential facilities or so forth, may experience going into the next part of like a pipeline into prisons
Yeah.
and jail and stuff like that because they got
Mhm.
institutionalized, you know.
Mhm.
So very few of us come out of here and do what you've done. Like at 18, you're like, look, I gotta boss my life up because it's like,
Oh yeah.
like I gotta get it together. Ain't
Mhm.
nobody else do it for me, but what I can do is choose to do
Mhm.
it for myself. So,
Exactly.
with that being said, I want to get into, if you don't mind,
Mhm.
18. You was out there, like I know
Uh,
you were faced with a lot of different struggles.
oh yeah.
Coach, so could you kind of explain some of the struggles that you face and to get into somewhat stability, what you're in now?
Basically, at 18, coming out of that situation, I went from going in the foster care system with two parents and coming out with just one. That was already traumatizing within itself. And then, the whole senior year situation, like, it was just like that was the worst year of my life. Like, I didn't understand. And I came out and it's like, boom, freedom. You feel me? So if I'm in a structured environment, grieving and come out and there's no structure, I was walling out. But I got to a point where I was like, you can't be like this. So it was this lady that I had met, and her name is Miss Jackson, and I'm still friends with her on Facebook. And when we had met, she just wanted to do nice stuff for me, and she really like got me together. Like she put me on to different things. And this was a person that wasn't even related to Oakland County, related to nothing. It was really because of her that really she instilled something in me. So she helped me look for apartments, and she was like really showing me how to do stuff that now I know how to do now. So she helped me look for my first job, and she was just showing me how to like stack my money and how to get life together. And at first, Common Ground, you know about them.
Mm-hmm.
They had this foster care program or whatever, so they help you with your first apartment, and
Okay.
that's what I did. And they helped with the first year. Then after that, I think you can be in there for a year, two up to 2 years. It's called the graduated apartment program, and so you be up in there for 2 years and then you pretty much on your own. So whatever stipends or anything you get from DHS, you would have to stop those stipends because it's
Mm-hmm.
not double dipping. So they said whatever money that you get like on your own working, you pay like not even 20% of what the actual rent will be or whatever. I don't know, but that was really a stepping stool. And then after that, I branched out to like literally having my own name on my own lease, everything in my own name. But little programs like that is what helped help me get stabilized for the most part and better my understanding. Because at 18, it's like they really do throw you out into the world with no understanding, no guidance, nothing. So it was like these third party resources is what really helps. For real, for real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and we've kind of adapted a little bit. You're 1 year younger than me, so we kind of
How old
grew
is you?
up.
Oh, you.
Essentially, I'm 24. You know,
Uh.
so we kind of grew up in the same like system.
Mhm, mhm,
And so forth. Like I actually came from Oakland County too,
mhm,
but I also like spent time in Detroit and so forth. I'm actually from Detroit,
mhm,
um, but like it's still like that. Like this is
mhm,
not something new. Like
mhm,
unfortunately, like especially if they're so called like a problem child, like and stuff
mhm,
like that. Placements, independent living programs, and so forth would do what they have to do to kind of explain where they're like, oh, there's nothing else we can do for this youth. And then what they will do, in my experience, and this is a true story. I heard from one of the guys I was working with,
mhm.
that okay, I wasn't really like a great youth, but
Mhm.
they kind of gave up on me in that program.
Yeah.
And he went to tell me that when they gave up on me, I was kind of just floating through. And so when it got time for me, when I turned 18, they submitted to the court that like there was nothing else for them to do, and so forth to make them the court just let me go. So when the court
Mhm.
just let me go, I was out in the world trying to figure it all out, and so forth, and what happens is, for a youth like yourself at that time, like there's certain age criteria and stuff like that for you to get certain kind of funding and resources. So
Yeah.
you came in after, so I don't know if you were eligible for some of those different resources. And
Oh
then
yeah,
were
I
you
was.
eligible for? You
Yeah,
was.
so with my twin sister, so my mom took her home before our 18th birthday, like literally the day before our 18th birthday.
Okay.
Them benefits canceled out for her. Had she stayed 24 hours, because I had a new caseworker, and they said, Maya, stay here. She was just really trying so hard. She was like, stay here until your 18th birthday. I left on my 18th birthday because she was like, once you stay here and you physically here on your 18th birthday, still in this facility, you will be having insurance till you're 26. You will have this, and that. So I will have insurance. And then when I was in a group home, I was getting checks every week to pay for certain things. I went to college off the foster care situation. And so I went to college, and I still can go to college still. FAFSA, they pay for all my stuff. So all those benefits really do kick in if you stay after 18. So when they ask you on FAFSA if you was in foster care after the age of 13 or at 13, that you'll still qualify.
And that's awesome. That's awesome. You had somebody, and I'm glad, you had somebody that was like, hey, look, I get, that's it. But look, you might want to stay in here just in case, you go back home and it ain't, it ain't all together, and that's the thing, home can be appealing when you're in that system, and even though you left from the dysfunction and stuff like that, when family members come around or stuff like that, it can be like, dang, I wish I could go back. I don't know if that was for you, that was for me, and I had to come to a place where I was like, look, I'm gonna have to love my family from a distance because they tripping. And I remember going and doing like home visits and stuff like that because I wanted to keep that relationship. I didn't want to go back home because I didn't feel like it was stable for myself. And for me, I felt like I kept getting scapegoated. My behaviors wasn't brought on for nothing, which is why I entered into the juvenile system. Like, I had an absent father, even before my father, me and my father didn't have the best relationship. Me and my siblings, when I was younger, didn't have the best relationship, and after my father left, because he just left randomly one day, like, my mom, she tried the best that she could, but also, she had some difficulties there, so like when it got to where I was and putting in the juvenile system and foster care system, I was like, I would come home for home visits and like they'd be tripping, and I would try to use some of the tactics I learned at the residential and be like, look, hey, let's have a group session. Let's talk about this. They look at me like I'm crazy and cuss me out, and I'm like, okay, so.
That's the thing though about being in a system that I realized, like, because I grew spiritually in that time too, and it's like people like us, I feel like we was breaking cycles. It took for us to get put in a system, and we see it's a different way of life other than what we grew up in, because that's what it was for me. Like, I grew up in this environment, and I feel like that was normal, that was my reality, until I got took into the system, and they said, no, your mom doing that to you was wrong, this person doing that to you was wrong. And that's crazy how they could say that, but won't address your behavioral issues that stem from that. So it just, that's crazy. And, like you said, you go home for home visits and they look at you crazy for trying to practice something, because they don't, when we come up in an environment, it's trauma for generation after generation. They don't see it. They don't realize, the stuff that's done, but they grown at that point, they older and just in their ways and don't really know. So, uh and with the thing that you were saying about older kids being taken care of, I feel like that is a must. You feel me? I was living off survival skills since I was 13 years old, and I think that's why I'm in a position that I'm in now. But everybody don't have that willpower and drive, and I feel like if you just start reaching out to these kids at 16, even 12, just letting them know that they worth it and empower them and educate them on different stuff, that they would come out like it's a messed up situation, but you are gaining resources and everything in a better understanding, because that will lower the crime rate and lower all these other things. Cause a lot of people, you probably know them, and I won't name, but it's people that passed away, that I was in Mandys Place with it, or I was in DBI with, and that's so sad because I always think back, like if they had the same outlook on life as me, or just even encounter some of the same people I encountered, they would feel like they didn't have to age out the system and go and get involved in crime activities or do these things, and that's really heartbreaking. And now we in our early mid-20s, and life is a lot different for us. Like,
Yeah, like a lot of people, and speaking to that, a lot of people I was in, independent living with and in these programs with, like, they not here today. Like, I've witnessed people that, we were in this together. Like we were on a unit, and so forth. We trying to make it happen. I've witnessed people get arrested, serve severe prison time because they didn't deal with their trauma. People get put into sex trafficking. Some of the young ladies I was in, independent living with in the girls program, they ended up getting into very toxic relationships because they didn't deal with the trauma, and stayed through those toxic and abusive relationships. And it's kind of disheartening because I got to see, like, the statistics of what people talk about in the social work and professional field iron out for the people who were surrounding me. Yeah, we came from different scenarios, and so forth, but how do I say this? Resiliency is something that is learned. It is not something that just happened, and that's where a lot of people get lost.
Right.
I was talking to somebody else on another podcast, and they were, explaining this, and I was like, yeah, that really makes sense. Like we all don't just like have that will, have that motivation, have that strive towards life, and unfortunately, some people, in their late 30s get that, and so forth, and it was very disheartening and still disheartening because, like you grow to care for those people, you spend several months to a year in programs and units and groups, with people you who working side by side, you hoping they make it too. You hoping that, like, when y'all get out, y'all stay connected and stuff like that. And unfortunately for myself, most of all, the people besides one person that I can think of right now, had, suffered from, either being locked up, being homeless, find themselves in sex trafficking, in abusive relationships, or dead, you know. So it's very disheartening and it's disproportionate, we need to be able to get into these places and support them alongside supporting the youth, at an early age. We need to do more towards prevention. There needs to be a lot more reforms at the top level, not, just starting at these facilities, but at the top level, and streaming down to these facilities, and so forth. But more so, like, we need to think about what we can do to break those generational things with those parents before their kids get into the foster care system and stuff like that. So it is very interesting. I appreciate all the nuggets and tidbits that you've been dropping. But just to close us out, like, if you could give me any advice, towards, those youth are transitioning out, and even for some of those younger youth, so those two pieces, give me any advice or tips or tidbits that you may have for transition age youth and for those younger youth that are, 13, 14, 12, in the system right now.
Well, basically, the phrase that I go by and been living by since I was younger is "This too shall pass." I got it tatted on me as a reminder. You going through hard times and you going through rocky times, and it seemed like forever. But if you just keep the faith, and just keep pushing, better days are coming. Better days are coming, and like utilize everything in front of you because you feel like it don't make sense now. Because I thought none of this made sense until I got older and was literally my back was against the wall, and you remember, oh, teacher such and such said this or da 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 da, because it makes sense at the long run. Like we growing up and life happens, you know, but just realize what's going on and just take grasp of what's going on in front of you right now and just keep persevering. Like, utilize everything that's in front of you. If it's a counselor, just let it out, talk through your grief and your trauma now, because it will feel so much better at 23. Because I'm 23 now. I live on my own. I have a car. I work, and I'm surrounded around people. Like, we don't get to choose the family that we are born into, but we get to choose everything else after that. The friends and everybody you choose to connect with, that's all you. But you want to be a complete whole person to have those type of interactions later on. And it's just working through it. Like, you just got to work through it. And, you know, if anybody's spiritual, stay prayed up. Like, that's really what got me through. And I don't regret nothing that happened coming up, because it's because of that I have resilience and that I'm such a strong person. And at this point, it's not living off of survival skills. I'm just living life. And I feel like that's a blessing. And I'm happy to even sit here and have conversations like this. So
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Like, I would take some of that and, you know, add it into my, you know, reservoir, and so forth. And I'm gonna even say this, and then, you know, I'm gonna end us out here. What's next for you? You know, is there anything next? You know, any goals that you have going forth and stuff like that? So.
Yes, I do have goals. I have a passion to open up group homes. Because I want to be relatable, because growing up in the system, I was talking to people that didn't look like me. They didn't look like me, you know. So I just want to talk and mentor little girls, younger girls, and let them know, like, you can be successful with tattoos, piercings. You can, speak your truth and share your story and be a catalyst in other people's lives. And I plan on opening group homes for young adolescent women, so we can work through this trauma, so we can have female mayors, presidents, whatever, and we just get to doing the work and channel a lot of that energy into other productive things, so we can just stop these generational curses and break this line. Like, this is it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the goal, and that's what's next for me. Because I still got a lot of work to do as well, but I'm on the other side, so it's just easier. And while I'm helping myself, it's 10 times easier to help other people, and that's just a dream.
Okay. You know, you gave us a lot of words. You better go ahead. You know, I appreciate it. You know, and I just think it's awesome just to hear our alumni, you know, and so forth, you know, just make it out, you know. And I say make it out, like, I know the system ain't all bad, because, like, I'm grateful for it. There was a lot of gems in the system, but the overall of it.
Oh, yeah, you already know.
You know, but I was lucky, come across certain staff that dropped some nuggets for me, come across certain youth that was in there with me, that kind of kept keeping me pushing, you know, and then towards the end, getting, you know, people that continue to help me do that. And just, I knew I wanted better for myself, you know, growing up in Detroit, you know, seeing a lot of different things, seeing death, seeing crime, seeing drugs, all that stuff. You know, and that being the norm, you know, that being poverty being the norm, you know, homelessness being the norm, being hooked on drugs at a young age being the norm. I wanted better. And, you know, the foster care system, and I will forever say this, you know, saved my life, gave me opportunities to view myself, take responsibility for some of the actions that I had, but also see that it wasn't on me. You know, that there was responsibility on my family's part that, you know, didn't just do right, you know, and there was responsibility for their parents and so forth, you know, but it just did not happen. So, you know, I could talk for days and so forth. But, you know, I'm glad to have you. I appreciate it. You know, I would love to have you back eventually at some point when you get those group homes open, or when you're starting to open them, to kind of talk about that journey and so forth, you know. But, you know, to the listeners, you know, this is Resilient Voices and Beyond. You guys have a great night, great day, great evening, whenever you listening to it. Just let it be great. And you guys stay safe out there. COVID is real, you know, it is getting people. Please, if you ain't vaccinated, if you want to get vaccinated, I don't know. I'm not getting into any kind of political thing there. just do what you can to stay safe. Wear a mask. If at least, that is at least you can do is wear a mask and carry hand sanitizer. So you guys just have a great whatever.
Bye.